Okay, so I'm doing this little series on the channel as of late, talking about 3 players a club could potentially look to trade for, sign, whatever it may be in the upcoming 2025 AFL free agency and trade period. Again, I think at the time of making this video, the Richmond one should be out, the Essendon one should be out, so they're all there. But I thought, in today's video, we gotta do a West Coast one, because I feel like a lot of my content is, there's a lot of West Coast stuff I'm doing on the channel. I don't really want to talk about St Kilda, because St Kilda are already looking at everyone and their dad, and we kind of already know that's confirmed, so I won't really touch on that exactly too much. But there are 3 players that I have picked today that I think the West Coast Eagles should absolutely target, and I haven't gone big names. Like, I haven't gone what I would have probably a couple months ago with like Chad Warner or anything like that. I've gone little role players that I think the Eagles kind of need to fill in spots around their team, because, right now in their starting 23 players, there's probably like only 15 to 16 of them that should actually be playing. They have 6 to 7 spots on their consistent starting team that genuinely just need to be filled with new role players, and I think they're going to go through that in the draft, but they're also going to go through that in, the free agency and trade period. Again, one player who I think the West Coast Eagles should actually really target, because reportedly he's getting offers from every team and is assessing every single market, and that does happen to be Sam Draper from the Essendon Football Club. Again, as we know, Draper unfortunately tore his Achilles and is reportedly going to miss about the first half of next year. But as we know, he's been getting offers from a bunch of different teams. Like, apparently both of the South Australian teams are interested in him, of course, the state that he's from. Apparently Essendon obviously still very big and keen on him. But then there's been other clubs that have been slightly linked, like Geelong and Collingwood have been mentioned. There was also a report that Brisbane are targeting him heavy as well. Again, I don't think this guy really cares about, going back home or anything like that. I think he's genuinely just being really curious about the best option that he could possibly have, whether that's, money-wise, of course, team fit, all of the above. And I think he'll be looking for a longer term contract. And I actually think the Eagles would be a really good team for him to look at, and a team that would genuinely make so much sense. Again, as we know, the West Coast Eagles are 99% likely to have the first overall pick in the 2025 AFL draft, where they'll probably select Cooper Duff-Tytler, the best ruckman, of course, in the draft class. Again, even though he will probably go pick 1, and he is supposed to be the best player in the draft, as we know, ruckmen tend to take quite a while to develop in the AFL. And in my thoughts and opinions is that if West Coast do drop Bailey Williams and Matt Flynn for him, which they probably will do because he'll already be better than both of those guys, I think that is just genuinely throwing him out to the wolves way too quick. And I think if you start him as your main ruckman from round 1, he's going to absolutely get killed, and it will probably hurt his development, because he won't have anyone to learn from, and he'll just be thrown out to the wolves to pretty much die out there. Again, as we know, West Coast seem to have a different plan. They seem to be looking to try and bring in a ruckman to play alongside Duff-Tytler, so Duff-Tytler can probably play like 70% key forward and then 30% ruck. Again, we know he can easily do that. He's been really good when he's played as a key forward as well. So they've been interested in Darcy Cameron, who I don't think they're going to get from Collingwood. He still has a year left on his contract. And I think they should go for Sam Draper. Again, Draper probably won't play the first half of the year. That is fine. Again, you can play him alongside a Bailey Williams or a Matt Flynn for the first half of the year, right? I don't see any issue with that at all. But as soon as Sam Draper comes into this team, if they were to sign him, I think it would help his development out so much. And Draper would get his way, because he would be the main ruckman of the team for at least the next 2 to 3 years at the club, with Duff-Tytler, splitting the ruck time, but also playing a lot of key forward. So I think Draper would be able to teach him a fair bit. He'd be a great player, a great cheap option to put alongside Cooper Duff-Tytler as well. Again, I think you'd have to pay a lot to give him and give him a lot of years, but I don't think you'd have to give up much to get him really at all. So I like that player for the West Coast Eagles. I think he'd be good to play alongside Duff Tytler. Another guy I think would be really good and is a really cheap option who would be way cheaper than Draper would actually happen to be Ivan Soldo for the Port Adelaide Football Club. Again, to me, Ivan Soldo is still light years better than Bailey Williams and Matt Flynn. I don't rate either of them, and I don't think even West Coast fans do. I mean, I see a lot of hate towards those guys in the comment sections. But I mean, again, they're just backup ruckmen. None of them should be really starting in the AFL. So that's just how it is, right? But a guy like Ivan Soldo, I think would be a really good fit. I mean, he hasn't had a good run with Port Adelaide, and I think that's because of a lot of reasons. I genuinely believe that the players Port have don't really fit the style that he plays. I think they need more of a ruckman that can cover the ground, which Soldo's strength is being a tap ruckman. I mean, West Coast often get killed in the hit-outs, and I think if they were to get a guy like Ivan Soldo to come in, I think he would actually be really good, better than what they have now. And Ivan Soldo has actually proved that he can play with another ruckman, winning the 2019 AFL Premiership with the Tigers. Again, last good season he probably had was like 2023, 2022. I still think he has another good season or two left in him. You probably would only have to give up a late third round pick. Andrew McQualter has also coached Ivan Soldo before. So I think he'd be genuinely a pretty good option that would be really, really cheap, especially if they want to change things up from Matt Flynn and Bailey Williams. He'd be a good option. And obviously, if you're looking for more of the future, Sam Draper, I think, could be there for quite a while. So I think those two guys would be good for them, you know, looking at the ruckman. I think, though, they need to look at some younger players who are looking for more opportunity from another team. And one player that I actually have in mind that I think would be really good for them does happen to be Sam Butler from the Hawthorn Football Club. Again, unfortunately, Butler broke his leg, I believe it was last year, and missed the whole entire year. But as we know, he's come back this year with the Hawks and has played every game since he's been back from injury at the time making this video. And has actually been playing some really good football as a high half forward who pushes up the ground. And I think he'd be a really, really good addition to the West Coast Eagles Football Club. I think he would be a really smart player to bring in, a young player who is looking for a consistent game, but also looking for a paycheck. And I mean, he does have capabilities of what his brother had, who his brother is a premiership player with the Tigers, and for a couple of years there was one of the best small forwards in the league. I think was robbed of an All-Australian. I think it was in 2020 or 2021 in his first year with the St Kilda Football Club. And I think he's actually had a really good career, and Sam Butler has a lot of those traits that, of course, Dan does have. And I think Sam Butler would actually be a player who, I think he moves up the ground a little bit better than what Dan does. I also think he's a player that could maybe pinch hit in the midfield as well. And I mean, the Eagles need a lot. They need a ruckman, they need midfield depth, they need forwards, all of the above. And I think Butler would be a guy who would come in if you gave him maybe 3 years, get him to the team on like $500,000 a year. It'll be much more than what I think Hawthorn will be looking to pay him. I think they'd also only be looking to give him a year for now. If you gave him that, trade up a late second round pick, early second round pick or something like that to get him to the team. Maybe even be a late first, because again, first round picks in this year's draft will be like pick 32 with all the academies and father-sons. I think he'd be a really good fit and a really good player to maybe go and add in. So again, would West Coast dramatically change their team if they did stuff that I've mentioned today? Not really. But I think next year, if they were to have Draper, Butler, Cooper Duff, Tytler, and whoever they probably take at pick 2 if Oscar Allen goes and they get that pick back from compensation, I mean, they should be a little bit better, or at least look a lot better, because they finally have some stuff going for them. And look, there might be some other players they look at in free agency in the trade period, but these are the guys that I think will be their main, options. And none of them are really that expensive, and all of them would play a really good role and be a very good piece to hopefully help West Coast get back in the finals very, very soon. But again, I'd very much like to hear all of your thoughts and opinions on this in the comment section down below. Who do you guys think West Coast should trade for? Maybe try and sign. Again, I'd like to know subscribe to my gaming channel, which will also be getting linked in the description down below. Subscribe to this channel for all latest sports content and news, all of the above. Again, don't forget to let me know thoughts and opinions on this all down below, and I guess I'll be seeing you guys next time. Goodbye.